Huck goes through a lot throughout the book, but one of the first real religious encounters he has is when he speaks to Miss Watson about the good place and the bad place. He says he would rather go to the bad place because that's where Tom will likely go. This shows how little thought he puts into religion at the beginning of the book. After this, Huck tries his hand at prayer to see if he can get any fish hooks or fish line. It doesn't end up working that well, and he sweeps it under the table for now. As Huck's journey continues, he's exposed to a lot of different religious behaviors in the South. He also gets to travel with his biggest religious influence, Jim. After being with Jim for a while, Huck begins to feel guilt for what he's doing for him. Huck sees the religious values that surround him and sees that they go against everything he's willing to do for Jim. One example is when he observes a Sunday school and doesn't go because he thinks the teachings will be the exact opposite of what he's doing. He says his acts would put him in everlasting fire, or hell. Huck feels so guilty that he writes a letter to Miss Watson detailing where Jim is and how to get him. This shows just how much religious values affect Huck and his mindset. He stresses over it and puts a lot of thought into it, which contrasts with the beginning of the book, where he's very casual about prayer and doesn't put too much thought into it. Huck ends up overcoming his guilt when he rips up the letter in defiance, determined to rescue Jim. It still shows how Huck's journey with Jim and the values that are against it impact him throughout the book. So how does Huck's perspective relate to modern times? Well, it's estimated that nearly 70% of the people in the United States are Christian, and this makes Huck's actions timeless in a way. This means that a lot of modern day kids will have tried similar things to Huck. Not like trying to escape from home with a slave, but more simple things like asking for something and then getting frustrated when it doesn't magically appear. Instead of fish hooks or fishing line, a more modern example would just be a bike. A lot of kids also visit church with their parents and are presented morals that can change their way of thinking, much like Huck's. So in conclusion, the religious values that Huck is presented on his journey with Jim, they change his way of thinking and impact a lot of his decisions. While Huck's journey may be more eventful, it shares a lot of similar properties with modern day's kids' experience of religion.
In The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Jim's beliefs concerning witches relate to the modern-day superstitions surrounding Halloween. For example, flowers will grow on the grave of someone who lived a good life. Only weeds grow on the grave of someone who was evil. Never wear anything new to a funeral, and never whistle in a graveyard. You are summoning the devil. Huck says that Jim is most ruined for a servant and gets stuck up on having an account of having seen the devil and been rode by witches. In the book, Jim shares his superstitions with the slave who feeds him when he is trapped. Jim's superstitions are criticized by some, just like how some think superstitions are silly in modern day. Another connection is when Pap hallucinates and imagines Huck as the angel of death. This relates to supernatural superstitions that become relevant during this time of year, Halloween. In conclusion, most of the supernatural superstitions in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn become most relevant when nearing Halloween. We still have these superstitions, but they are not seen as seriously as they are in the book.